Hello everybody, it's Mr. Starton again. I'm here for your next lesson on plants. We are already up to lesson 7, believe it or not. So last lesson we learned about pollination. We've also learned about the different parts of a flower. We've also learned about what a flower needs to live. We had a look at a few of the experiments that I've done and the investigations that I've done and seen what was wrong with those plants and what they were neglecting because I'm such a terrible gardener, I think. Today is going to be about seed dispersal. So let's get started. So let me just share the screen first, like always. Struggling with that a bit. There we go. Brilliant. Okay. So let's get going. Okay, so first thing today is, now you may already have these in your books from when we did it before, but can you name me the parts of the flower? Can you pause the video now and have a go at that? Right, let's have a look if you've got all of them. So we've got the stem and the sepal at the bottom. The female part, reproductive parts, can you remember what they are? Well done, yes. The ovule and the ovary contains those ovules, and then you've got the style and the stigma. The male parts, absolutely. The filament, which supports the anther, that produces the pollen, and then the petal, which is nice and pretty so that the insects are attracted to it. And we learned about why it was so important now for those insects to be attracted to it when you created your cartoon sequence in the last lesson. Speaking of the last lesson, I would like you again to try and remind yourself where these parts link. So pause the video now, see if you can remember which matches which. Okay, let's join those up together then. So insects, insects, well, they carry pollen while collecting nectar from that flower. The anther produce the pollen. They are the male parts of the flower. The filament, well, yeah, that supports or holds up, I've got there, the anther. The ovary. The ovary keep the ovules safe, as safe as they can be, not when we're ripping them apart and having a look inside. The petal, yeah, the petal attracts the insects and the animals, and we now know why. The stigma collects pollen from the insects, and we learned about the importance of wind for some of those, that pollination as well, because that helps to carry the pollen as well in case, for whatever reason, there's no insects around. Brilliant. Okay, well, let's carry on then. So what are you going to need today? Pencil and paper and some crayons, okay? Also, if you've got some scissors, it will be good, but don't worry if you haven't, because we can just tear up that paper as well. Okay, seed dispersal. What do you think it is? Well, it's to do with seeds, and we know that seeds are needed for reproducing. It's to do with how seeds get around. So once the pollination is complete, how do those seeds actually get from place to place? We're going to have a look at why. So what we need today to know, germination, we know that from our bean experiment. I hope they're going well, by the way, your investigations, and you're still keeping a diary. Pollination, seed dispersal, flowering, seed formation. Okay, I've got 3 clues here. What do you think these pictures mean when it comes to seed dispersal? Right, insects, yeah. Okay, we know that they're going to have a part again. And I've got dandelion again there, which is showing that the wind is going to be important. The sunflower, though, that's more, we said about it being asexual, it produces itself. That will come in play as we go through the lesson. So, the ways that seeds are dispersed. Well, some seeds can be dispersed through water. So when you think about water lilies, for example, they grow next to the water, okay? They grow near the water and then produce very light seeds that float along the water before sinking and starting their own growth. So when you see a lot of plants that are on the water, like a water lily, that's because that's the way that they spread their seeds, using the water, using the surroundings there. Now, some seeds, put my teeth back in, Mr. Starting. Some seeds rely on animals. So you know, when you're walking along, if you're walking along a heath, there's some lovely heaths around here in Dorset actually, and hopefully where you are, you'll be able to get out again soon, and you'll be able to go around and see these. But you get those strange things caught on you when you're walking along, and you have to brush them off. They're a bit spiky. Those are so often seeds. They're basically catching a ride on you, so that they can be spread out and they can find their own space to germinate and grow and start their life off as a plant, and then they'll produce their seeds, which will do the same. Now, these do grab onto us. We're more aware of it, but often they'll grab onto your dog or your cat or an animal nearby, hitch a ride, and then drop off when that cat shakes or the dog shakes, and the seeds get spread. They find the ground, they grow again. Burdocks are an example of this. Fruit. Not just good for eating. Fruit has got a purpose. It's not just there to make us feel full and nice and have something nice to eat. No. They actually are a way of the fruit of the plant spreading its seeds. So the seeds are actually in the fruit and are eaten by the animal. And then it goes through the animal's body, including us, and then comes out in our poo. It comes out in there, and obviously for animals that's out in the open, outside. So what happens when that animal goes to the toilet? It goes to the toilet on the ground. The seeds are still inside it if they've been able to survive, and then they grow in the ground around. They also get a lot of the nutrients from the animal going through the system as well. So next time you're having a nice berry or some apples, think about seeds that are inside that. Now, we often try to avoid the seeds because we know they're there, but a lot of animals will just eat whole that go through them. Okay, so whenever you see a watermelon seed, that's why it's there. Whenever you see apple seeds, that's why they're there. It's because that's the way the plant is trying to spread its seeds around. And then when you think about conkers, this is a bit of a more rough and tumble way of the seeds spreading themselves around. They drop, roll along the ground, crack open, find somewhere for them to grow. Okay, if you think about acorns, you think about the conkers that we see in autumn, they are a way of the trees spreading their seeds. They hurt a bit, that's because they're being protected, so they can drop, roll, and move along to find space to grow. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video here. I would like you to tell me which picture matches which and write down all of those ways that plants spread their seeds. Off you go. Okay. So we've got the different pictures. Obviously, so up here, we've got the water lily. Wind is a way of spreading as well. And dandelions, we talked about that before. We didn't talk about it too much today, but you already knew that one because of pollination. It's catching a ride on animals, fruit, and rolling. So you should have written down all of those and how they spread, and maybe an example of where they spread. Okay, we're going to now start an investigation. We're going to create a helicopter seed. So I'm just going to show you, stop for a moment and show you how this is done. So here's one I created earlier. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it now with a piece of paper. So if you've got some scissors, fantastic. You can do this with me. If not, you can either wait and go pause the video and go get some scissors, or if you haven't got some scissors, ripping it will be fine. So what I'm going to do is just cut out a thin piece of paper like that. I'm going to fold it in half like that. And then I'm going to take the two ends, here and here, and I'm going to fold these like so, both sides, like that. Okay. Now this is my example of a seed from a sycamore tree. Okay, you may have seen these, the helicopter seeds that you see in autumn. Okay, they're so much fun to throw up and see how many spins you can get, aren't they? Or so high they can go. You've just made your own one. What we're going to do is we're going to see if this works. So Watch me for a moment. Just going to pick it up and a little bit. So I'm going to add a little something to that now. And that's going to be a paper clip, okay? Now, what's happening with the seed is when I throw it up in the air, it's trying to catch the air and there's a little bit of resistance happening. And the wings here are trying to catch the air. So let's see, if I put a bit of weight at the bottom, hopefully that will keep the bottom down and those wings can try and catch the air a bit better. To do with gravity. No, not for that one. So if I go back to the one I had before, you may notice that this one is a bit thinner than this one. Now, being completely honest here, I tried this already, obviously, so I know that I needed to change a few things before this worked. But if we look at it now, and that's much better. It still falls quite quickly, but much, much better. So have a go at making your own. I'm just going to share with you again what you need to do. Okay, so there are your instructions. Have a go at creating your own. Pause the video. Have a go at that. Okay, so hopefully you've made one of your own. You may have even made more than one of your own, which is exactly what I would want you to do, because this now is the investigation part. I want you to ask a question of your seed helicopter. What if I made the wings longer so they spread out more? What if I used a paper clip at the bottom? What if I didn't use a paper clip at the bottom? What if I changed the height that I drop it from? You may even have questions yourself, things that you're thinking. What if I made it out of a different type of paper? What if I made it taller? What if I changed the color of the paper? Would that change anything? I would like you to give yourself a question and then go away and test it and see what happens. So I'm going to pause the video now, ask yourself a question, write that question down, and then find out what happens. Off you go. Okay, did you enjoy that? Hopefully you saw that things change. Perhaps yours was much better when it had longer wings. Perhaps yours was better if you used a different material like card, maybe even. Okay, lots of different things you can try, and you can go away after this lesson and try different ones. But the main thing is that you have been working scientifically and asking questions of how you can improve and change the investigation that we'll be making. So one more recap then before we finish. Can you remember 5 ways that the seeds are dispersed? Well done, yeah. So we've got water, we've got wind, we've got animals, we've got fruit, and then we've got rolling as well. Okay, everybody, that's the end of today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed our helicopter seed investigation. What you're going to need next time, we're going to learn about the life cycle of a plant. You're going to need paper, pencils, crayons, and if you have got a larger piece of paper, that's better because we're going to be making a poster. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I shall see you in the next lesson. There we go, stop there. Sorry, that took me a little while to find how to stop it that time. Okay, so if you're still with me, thank you. I'll see you in the next lesson. I hope you enjoyed it today.